What's up, everybody? Madcuz Brad here with Pro Tabletop. Today we're going to be talking about the top 3 Space Marine units that are now going to be even better with strategic reserves. That is right. New rule for 9, strategic reserves. I'm sure everybody knows what it's about. To summarize it really quick, basically you can pay CP to keep units off the board. It is going to be determined by power level. So typically you could spend in between 1 to 3 CP and get 1 to 2 units off the board. So there is, armies that have the ability to do this already, but not everybody. So now this opens it up to everybody. Then when you come in, you have to come in within 6 inches of a board edge, and in turn 2, it cannot be on the opponent's deployment zone or table edge. And then turn 3, it cannot be on their table edge. So you get a little bit more board space as the turns kind of go on. So it's going to be very interesting because it looks like, you don't die if you don't come in at the end of turn 3. You can now live to turn 4, 5, 6, whatever the length is, and come in later in the game. So super interesting, and there's some armies that are going to really benefit from this, but today we're going to focus on Space Marine, and I've got my 3 picks of what I think are going to really benefit from it. So hear me out. Let me know in the comments what you think, and if you agree or disagree. Again, this ain't rocket science. I'm not an expert. This is my opinion, so argue with me, agree with me, and let's get the conversation going. So the first unit that we're going to talk about here is going to be the Repulsor Executioners. So these guys are already nasty. If you're used to playing competitive, you've seen these guys, you've seen them do a lot of things. But now as a Space Marine player, if you play this, one of the worst things that can happen is you go second, right? You go second, you've got one of these, and I wouldn't expect to see more than one of these with point changes and stuff like that, but they put out a lot of firepower, so they're really good units. So if you go second and the other guy, other girl that you're playing, your opponent is just like, yeah, I'm going to go kill that thing. So most likely you can kill it in a turn with a lot of armies, whether it's a shooting army, a close combat army, it gets threatened. You could take it out in a lot of situations in turn 1. So now you go, wow, that was a lot of my firepower as a Space Marine player. So what you can do now is you can spend CP. I don't know what it's going to exactly be with the point increase. It's going to be a 2 or 3 CP depending. So if you feel like you need to spend that CP to keep it alive and when you're going second, put it in strategic reserves, and now you can come on the board whenever. So what that does is it allows you to just show up, cause havoc in that area of the board, and just right, you're at least not giving them the unit turn 1. You're able to shoot with it turn 2 or turn 3 or turn 4 whenever you bring it in, right? If you want some late game thing that you bring in on the last turn to do something, I don't know that that's the smartest thing to do, but you could do it if you wanted to. But basically it just allows you to really disrupt the playing field and just come in. So I think that it's going to be really good for them. And I look at this rule as I'm going to be focusing a lot more on shooting units, because you can say that any unit that is in close combat benefits from the rule. But here's my thing. A charge is never guaranteed. Even if you have +1 or +2 or rerolls, it is never guaranteed. Shooting is guaranteed. If you can reach them, you can shoot them, right? If you can reach them and see them, you're shooting them. So all the guns that this thing has, you're going to get a huge benefit of being able to put it wherever you want on the board, essentially. So I think that it's way stronger than close combat units. So that is the first unit that I'm going to stick on the board for Space Marines. Let me know if you agree or disagree with this choice. Then the second one, we're going to go into the Leviathan Dreadnought. So these guys are just absolute terror to have to deal with, right? 20 shots that are, flat 2 damage. It is detrimental to a lot of units, and it is really hard to overcome. And you run them with stuff where you're getting rerolls and everything like that, it just blows things off the table. But their biggest weakness is they struggle to get in range. So unless you're running up into their range, it takes them a little bit to be able to reach you, and you could kite them. You can range them, a lot of the times you can use terrain to your advantage. And now with the new terrain rules, you could probably use it to your advantage even more. So I think, whenever I play against them, I do this really just ignore them. Just ignore them as much as you can until the game is almost over and you're forced to deal with them. But now, that is going to be way harder to do. So this thing can just start off the board and just come on the board, right? And you go, okay, what do you do when this pops up in your face and just eliminates one of your units? Like, it's got 24-inch range. It just has to be 9 inches away from whatever. So now you're going to be forced to be like, I have to screen out these units knowing that it's going to come in. And your whole game plan has to, change to defend these strategic reserves like this. So I think it's really, really detrimental. And you can say all Dreadnots really benefit from this. This is the one I want to specifically focus on. But all Dreadnots probably benefit from this because having them jump in and have las cannons and close combat weapons, now you're getting some shooting and some charging. You've got all these other different forms of Dreadnots that can do things. So they all benefit from it. But I think that this specific Dreadnought is going to super benefit from it because it always struggles to reach the units it's shooting. And the last unit I am going to touch on is going to be Aggressors. I think that they're in a similar spot with their 18-inch range, that they do struggle to reach a lot of things and shoot them. But when they reach, man, they destroy. They put out so many shots. They're shooting twice. They get, you're usually buffing them with rerolls and stuff like that. So they just become an absolute pain. Yes, they can walk through walls and terrain and stuff like that, but with the new terrain features, like putting these guys in the terrain, they can be shot at because they're not hiding behind a wall, essentially, in most situations. So it's going to be a lot harder for them to move up the board and kind of use the terrain and the cover to their advantage to not be shot until they get in range. So what's really cool about this is you could just keep them off the board. You can bring them in as strategic reserves. You can be within 18 inches of something and just explode it. And then at that point, it's like they've done their job. It doesn't matter if they die. And let's be real, they're not easy to kill anyway, so they probably will live another turn unless you dump a lot of stuff in it. But most likely, they've just countered what was going to have to kill them, so they don't have to worry as much. So really, really strong. And I think you're going to see a lot of things where like one strategic reserve comes in and then another one comes in to kind of counter it. So those are going to be my top 3 Space Marine units that are going to benefit from strategic reserves. Again, let me know if you agree or disagree with this in the comments below and who you are most excited with Space Marines to be using this rule. Once again, I'm Mad 'Cause Brad with Pro Tabletop. Peace out.